Hi everyone, and welcome to Pinnacle Classical Academy's show, Dare to Soar. My name is Laura Beth Richardson, and I'm the Dean of Intermediate Education at Pinnacle Classical Academy. In June, we hosted our 5th graduation ceremony, and it was an honor to have Dr. Christine Boer as our guest speaker. She is the Chair of Classical Education at Belmont Abbey College. This episode of Dare to Soar will feature her speech to our class of 2024. We hope you enjoy.
It is a great honor to welcome Dr. Christine Boer as our graduation speaker. She is the Vilma Gyurti Palos Endowed Chair in Classical Education at Belmont Abbey College, the first endowed chair established in the college's 148-year history. Dr. Boer received her BA in Political Science and Government from Belmont Abbey College and her master's and PhD in Political Science from Baylor University, where she wrote her dissertation on Aristotle's political thought. As a professor in Belmont Abbey College's Honors College, Dr. Boer has taught classes in political thought, the trivium, and ancient Greek literature, history, and philosophy. She is overseeing the college's new Master of Arts in Classical and Liberal Education. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Christine Boer.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ziegler. Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Shelley Shope, Senator Cleary, Senator Westmoreland, Mrs. Angela Brooks, and the members of the Board of Trustees for the great honor and trust of this invitation to speak to you at your graduation day. It's a little weird, I'm going to be trying to look at you like this, so if I start dancing up here, it's because I want to see you. It's a special joy for me to address each of you, not only as fellow students of the great classical tradition, but in particular at the outset of my own foray into the world of K-12 classical education, through serving as the chair of the Belmont Abbey's Masters in Classical and Liberal Education. And what an example of what is possible with that here tonight. I'm delighted to be here, especially in the Lyceum, named in honor of a school founded by a man who happens to be my absolute all-time favorite philosopher, Aristotle. Today, I want to honor these graduates completing their course of study and preparing to move on to the next phase of the adventure that is life by reflecting on the foundation you have received here over the past 4 years at Pinnacle Classical Academy. And what an education. Your parents love you, your teachers are proud of you, and I am just jealous of you. What you have received at so young an age is an inheritance that has been entrusted to you, and a treasure beyond what most young people alive today know even how to dream of. It is an education in music, in gymnastic, in mathematics, and rhetoric that teaches you not only how to dream, but what is worth dreaming of. An education that aspires to teach you not just how to make a living, but more importantly, how to live well. Your life is like the beginning of a novel. Plato and Aristotle are fond of a particular phrase in their writings. They say, the beginning is more than half the whole. The beginning is more than half the whole. This is as true of any great work of philosophy or literature as it is of human life. What a work of philosophy or literature is the potential of the beginning played out until the very end. And this is true of our lives. As we grow up, so much of what we become can be traced back to the beginning or foundation laid by our families, our early education, and our early choices and opportunities. And so in these final moments of your education here at Pinnacle, I want to pause and to remind you what you have received, and think about with you what that means for your future. So what is your education? The education you've been given here is one that equips you with the single most important skill that you will ever need: the ability to learn for yourself. This means that you have been equipped not only with the cultivated ability of knowing how to learn, but also you have been granted a vision of what is worth learning, what human life is good for, and what makes for a worthy and meaningful and happy life. I probably don't need to tell you that this vision and the means to it of grammar, logic, and rhetoric are in general greatly undervalued in the age of information, rapid technological innovation, and constant news cycles of world crisis. To take the pulse of the present age would be to discover a vacillation between naive optimism about the future and a fearful agitation bordering on despair. We live in an age at one and the same time, aspirational and trembling, an age of crisis. Now, all of you are perhaps more aware of the symptoms of this crisis more than any generation in recent memory. After all, your freshman year of high school was marked by figuring out how to live in light of a worldwide pandemic, a phenomenon that growing up I was convinced belonged to ancient Greek history and medieval cities without penicillin. But more than the fear of disease and natural disaster, there are greater symptoms of our crisis still. For all of our unprecedented wealth, opportunity, and innovation, so many in this generation live in the shadow of a fear of a future without hope. Unprecedented anxiety and depression and a generalized fear of economic collapse marks your generation in general. Greater still is perhaps the epidemic of loneliness and the cultural decline of friendship, civic trust, and meaningful involvement in community. Is it any wonder that so many turn to lives of unreflective activism, to escapist recreational use of drugs, to the fearful pursuit of degree after degree, and certification after certification, and only in death, in hopes of being able simply to keep up? And how could each of us not be affected by these things? That was hopeful, but here's the turn, right? As serious as all of these symptoms of our present crisis are, none of them is the beating heart of this crisis. As much as our present illness has physical, economic, political, and social ramifications, our crisis is not primarily physical, economic, political, or social. It is at its core a spiritual and intellectual crisis, a crisis of meaning. The foundational crisis of our age is a crisis of truth. We live in a crisis of truth. We live in an age that suffers under what has been fittingly termed the dictatorship of relativism. What does this dictatorship consist in? Our world so often subtly but relentlessly suggests to us that human life is absurd, that man is the author of his own meaning, because there is no absolute meaning, that reality is a cultural construction determined by the human will, rather than something discovered by human reason, and that human beings are incapable of making rational judgments about the best way to live, and thereby of moving to an authentic vision of happiness. This is a fog of despair brought about by the loss of hope and confidence in human reason and its ability to soar, to live in light of what is true. The heart of the reason that the education that you have been given here is an antidote to the loneliness, to the anxiety, and the nihilistic despair of so many of your peers is in fact very simple. That reason is truth. This education aspires to lead you out of ignorance, out of thoughtlessness, carelessness, and other vices, not simply to a knowledge of, but a genuine and life-giving love for what is true, what is good, and what is beautiful. Your education declares boldly and with confidence that the truth is. Reality, truth, is not the construct of the human mind or will. Truth is the conformity of our minds to reality. Truth does not, therefore, depend on you or on me. We depend on it. And by that very receptive dependence, cultivated through the education you have received, we learn to love and to live lives of integrity in light of that truth. The fear, loneliness, and lack of judgment that characterizes this generation in general is something that the education you have received aims to abolish by giving you not only the single most marketable skill in existence, knowing how to learn, but also by giving you a vision of what true learning is. What is worthy of knowing is not simply how to keep up, but why. To put it simply, human life is good. And not only what a good or human happy looks like in general, but also what happiness might mean for you as a rational being. How has your education provided this? In Latin, you have learned not simply the primary language of Western civilization, but also the basic mechanics of grammar and language that allow you to understand what is being said. In English, you have been exposed to the wonders of a tradition that gives you the most truly diverse experience of human nature in its comedy and its tragedy, nobility and baseness, joys and sorrows. In rhetoric, you have learned not simply how to evaluate and judge and sift through the vast amount of rhetoric that saturates our daily lives, but also how to express your very selves, the deepest part of yourselves, your intellect and your heart, with its thoughts, desires, and reasons for acting. In every other class, from the natural sciences to mathematics, from athletics to robotics club, you have been given a culture of wonder, excellence, and achievement that will allow you to flourish wherever you are called to take root and bear fruit. In sum, you've been given the wings on which to soar with confidence into the future. So having taken stock of the education you have received, what could be the shape of your future given this beginning? What's the other half of the whole? The only thing I know how to do when I face a perplexity like this is to return to my favorite philosopher and intellectual love affair, Aristotle, who conveniently enough is at the heart of Pinnacle Classical Academy's vision of education and the good life. At the height of Greek philosophy, in his work, The Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle declares that the happiest life for a human being is coextensive with the life of contemplation. He reaches this strange conclusion by observing that human beings are not just herd animals, but rational animals, whose nature consists not just in growth, development, and survival, merely living, but more deeply consists in a desire for living in accord with reason, what he calls living well. What does living well look like in reason and the contemplative life for our friend Aristotle? The first question we have to ask in order to understand is, what is reason? What does it mean to be a rational animal, as Aristotle describes us? To live a life of reason means, fundamentally, to exercise the capacity to make thoughtful and reasonable judgments about what is good and just and noble and right. And it allows us to talk about these same things and communicate about them with those with whom we live and work. To live well means to live an integrated life of considered choices in harmony with oneself and with one's friends and community. The second thing we need to understand is contemplation. What is this so-called contemplative life that is supposed to make us so happy? Well, to say what something is, it's usually best to begin, like that renowned Socratic philosopher, the Cat in the Hat, by saying what something is not. A life of contemplation is not a life of sitting alone by yourself in a small room thinking and talking to no one. Though thinking alone might be good sometimes, highly recommend. It is not necessarily joining a monastic community like the one in which I work and teach, filled with monks who spend their days praying and working, as beautiful as that is. And it is not necessarily going to Walden Pond alone by yourself to get in touch with nature. Because nature surrounds us, not just in forests and ponds, but in people, in relationship, in every single dimension of reality. And frankly, part of your nature is only revealed in community and through friendship. So what is contemplation? The word that we translate in English as contemplation in Aristotle's works is a fairly ordinary word in Greek. The verb at the root of that word means nothing more than to see or to look. To better grasp Aristotle's meaning, a more conceptual translation might be something like seeing in wonder. To see in wonder. What would a life, a future, of seeing in wonder look like? It would mean that what comes to be seen in wonder through the classical education you have received is everything. The world around us, the people who surround us, even your siblings out there, bugs, birds, airplanes, friends, athletic endeavor, technology, our very selves, with our hopes and our dreams, our deep loves and our disappointments, our joys and our sorrows. Through the love of wisdom and truth, and the pursuit of these things, we come to see and in wonder all that is. And what is includes you. It includes the self who learns to wonder at himself. One of the reasons that the life of contemplation is the happiest life, according to Aristotle, is that it most of all accords with our nature as human beings, who desire not just to live, but to live well, to know, and to love. And second, because it leads us to the attributes that most human beings instinctively recognize accompany happy people. What are those attributes? These are things to aspire to as we grow up, and I with you, right? Happy people tend to be stable, complete, enduring, and rare. So for Aristotle, friendship, the topic that lays the foundation for his treatment of contemplation, serves as a model for contemplation. Think of the best friendships you've ever had. What are they like? They tend to be stable, complete, enduring, and rare. Think of the people you most admire. What are they like? They tend to be, among other things, stable, complete, enduring, and rare. The life of contemplation, of seeing in wonder, is a life that integrates moral virtue, intellectual virtue, and shared community of speech and thought. It is a life that pursues the highest pleasures that are, you guessed it, stable, complete, enduring, and rare. To come to the heart of this, how is it that we really learn to see in wonder? To look at with love all that exists. Ultimately, the contemplative life is the fruit of the school of love, wherein we learn to see the world around us in love as a result of being loved first. We learn to see by watching others see. Our teachers, our parents, who are our first teachers, and our friends. And one of my favorite lines from one of my favorite novels, Brideshead Revisited, the main character, looking back at his life, states its fundamental lesson. To know and to love one other human being is the root of all wisdom. And so I say to you, to know and to love one other human being is the root of all wisdom, and hopefully there are many loves in your life. The root of wisdom is love. And so often, that love of and devotion to the truth begins when we are taught by those teachers who love us into existence and teach us how to see our very selves with eyes of love. And so I want to take just a moment as I wrap things up to invite you, to pause with you, to call to mind on this, your graduation day, those teachers and mentors who over the past 4 years have poured out their lives for the sake of your education. And if you haven't done so yet, I want to encourage you to go out of your way tonight or in the coming weeks to write a note to express your gratitude for them, for what you have received. By way of tying things together, moving forward into the various studies, careers, and relationships that lie ahead as you go forth, what would a life of seeing in wonder look like for you, whatever that path may be? First, gratitude. Gratitude is a recognition of our indebtedness to those who have loved us. For we have received, what we have received always exceeds what we could simply deserve. Second, delight. Throw yourself into your future studies and careers with zest. Never avoid those conversations or classes that are apparently tangential to what is useful to your major or career. There is so much more to life than merely making it in the professional world. Always be willing to remain an amateur and to begin anew. Third, friendship. Seek out those friends and mentors whose character is virtuous, that is, stable, complete, enduring, and rare. This is a greater and more profound wealth than the money you will make or the achievements you will earn. Seek out the friends, teachers, and mentors who challenge and guide you to become more completely who you are called to be. Finally, and above all else, never stop searching for and loving what is true. Fall in love with the search for truth and never be afraid to wrestle through the inevitable perplexities, difficulties, and confusions that may arise in your intellect or relationships. Life is full of big questions for which there are no easy answers. Do not be afraid of the adventure of a life lived in search of and in light of the truth. Again, the truth does not depend on us. We depend on it. And the truth is always there, waiting to be discovered, holding us all the while, even as we search. So, class of 2024 of Pinnacle Classical Academy, be grateful. Delight in what you learn. Seek out real, profound, and intimate friendships. Never stop searching for the truth. Dare to see and wonder. Dare to soar. God bless you.